Welcome to the campfire. Tonight, I'm going to take you back to Maplewood-Sparta, where suburban streets are lined with shadows. Some say the 90s are dead and gone, but here, they linger. So, gather close for a story of Halloween 1994, old world magic, and a friendship bracelet that bound more than anyone ever intended. I call it the bracelet. They told no one what happened that night. Not their parents, not their friends at school. But they carried it. Christina in her careful way. My mother in her restless way. Until one day, over 30 years later, when I came home from a bonfire and told her that I had been visited by a boy with shaggy blonde hair. He'd given me his leather jacket, and in its pocket, an old mixtape. He was kind and gentle. The only problem? He'd been dead since homecoming 1994. She went pale, sat down in her desk chair and looked out the night window, as she liked to do, and told me the story of the bracelet. About how it might have been her fault he was still hanging around after all these years. So, here it is. Christina and Noah were best friends. Every day after school, they ended up in Christina's bedroom, talking for hours. It was 1994, and from what I can tell, life was a constant battle against boredom. There was nothing on TV. No internet, no smartphones, just magazines, mixtapes, and each other. But from everything else I could tell, my mother thought it was the 60s. She was into the Doors, Hendrix, anything Woodstock, and so was her friend, Christina. One Sunday, in late October, when the winds were particularly gusty, they sprawled across Christina's bed, a teen magazine on Christina's lap, cans of Pepsi sweating on the nightstand. Once in a while, they'd sneak one of Christina's dad's Winstons, smoke it in the living room, then spray the air with cheap perfume to cover their tracks. My mom called them smoky treats, and she won't even let me eat sugary cereal. Anyway, on that day, they stuck to Pepsi and horoscopes, and friendship bracelets. While Christina flipped pages, reading about how the new look was burgundy wine lips and brown eyeshadow, Noah put on the Doors and pinned a mess of embroidery floss under the metal clamp of a clipboard. 8 strands in all. 2 red, 2 yellow, 2 white, 2 black. Knotted together at the top with a 3-inch tail. She pulled one strand over the other, loop by loop, tugging each knot tight with a practiced snap. The colors fell into neat diagonal stripes, bright against the dull brown backing of the clipboard. Red is for family, yellow for friendship, white for life, black for death. Why would you put death in a friendship bracelet? Noah shrugged, and Christina didn't press it. That was Noah, always pulling the dark closer. Christina had grown up in a house where prayers were said side by side with coffee ground readings, where every cross breeze or creak had meaning. The darkness was real, and around every corner. You didn't need to weave it in. It was already there. Okay, Noah. Let's change the subject. She flipped to the horoscope section of the magazine. Let's see. Pisces. Water sign. Don't let your dreamy nature run away with you. Sometimes the boys you like are not worth your time. Noah looked up and saw the grin on Christina's face. Chris! It doesn't say that. No, but it should. Kevin's not that bad. You have to think practically about boys. My older sister says, just pretend you don't care. How do I do that? You can't write them love poetry and stick it in their locker. They both laughed. Then Noah sighed. I don't know. The guys at my new school are different. They're Catholic boys. They just need a little coaxing. Well, you're lucky then. The guys at Maplewood-Sparta are just like they always were. Noah put down her clipboard and pulled the magazine from Christina's hand. Okay, Chris. Sagittarius. Fire sign. It says, use your discernment when making decisions. You are more powerful than you know. And stop having a crush on your history teacher. Noah! I told you never to mention that. The wind rattled the window, and Noah burst into laughter. That had a habit of happening when Chris's temper shot up. Noah found it hilarious. I'm glad we're hanging out again, even though we're going to different schools now. We didn't for a while there. Even when you were still at Maplewood-Sparta. Yeah. Noah got quiet and picked up her embroidery floss again, weaving it in a studied way. Oh, you know what we should do? Put on The End. No. Light my fire. No, The End. That song always makes you depressed. I mean, yeah, that's why I like it. Christina sighed, but in a moment, Morrison's The End slid heavy into the room. Suddenly, Noah sat up, the strands of embroidery floss falling from her fingers. We should try to contact him. Who? Jim Morrison, duh. He was so hot. Chris felt a nudge in her gut telling her they shouldn't. But they often did stuff like this when they were bored. Hypnosis, palm reading, Ouija. Tested out all kinds of occult mysteries. From under her bed, she pulled a worn Ouija board, the cardboard creased from use. They sat cross-legged on the bed, facing each other with the board laid flat between them, grinning as they set their fingertips to the planchette. Jim, are you here? The planchette moved to yes. You're moving it on purpose! No, I'm not. They laughed at each other. But the laughter quickly thinned, fading into a silence that felt too alert, like the house itself was holding its breath. And then, with a sharp metallic jolt, the bedroom doorknob rattled, and then just as quickly, stopped. Huh. Did you see that? Noah let out a nervous laugh. Then they said in unison, "The doors!" They shoved the Ouija under the bed, and Christina turned off the tape. But she must not have pressed it hard enough because the music somehow kept playing, Morrison's voice heavy in the air. This is the end, my only friend. The next day after school, they lingered at the grassy corner by the bus stop, where they liked to sit and talk. Halloween was in 4 days, and the neighborhood was dressed for it. Dead foliage stuffed into bright orange leaf bags with grinning black jack-o'-lantern faces. Plastic, gummy, yellow moons and flying witch silhouettes stuck to windows. Little ghosts made from handkerchiefs, tied to tree branches so they bobbed in the wind. The talk turned to parties and costumes. Christina wanted to go as a witch, black liquid eyeliner and lipstick borrowed from her sister. Noah said, maybe a ghost, a sexy ghost. How are you going to manage that? Isn't that just a white sheet with eyes cut out? Noah smiled slyly. I have my ways. They laughed and talked a while longer, Noah telling Chris about how different her new school, Holy Ghost High, was from Maplewood-Sparta. The dress code, the boys in ties and button-up shirts, and how it was strangely a good fit. Her grades were improving, and her parents were happy, which was a change, especially after her disastrous freshman year as a Spartan. Chris didn't love always being reminded of their freshman year, the year she was ditched, but she listened anyway. She knew the story well by now. Noah and her other friends, the ones she used to skip school with, had begun to party pretty much nonstop, and by the end of the year, Noah was slipping through the cracks. Their friend Ethan was slipping through the cracks too, but in a different way. For 2 days during Spirit Week in May, he'd gone MIA. Noah and her other friends went searching for him, following a trail to a tunnel beneath the cemetery. They didn't find Ethan in the tunnel, but Noah swore that what she did find was a ghost. He seemed so real. I even gave him my flannel, the one Ethan gave me, because he looked cold. And then he just vanished. Tony said he was an older kid who used to hang out. He'd OD'd in that tunnel. Noah shivered. The craziest thing was what he said to me. Feed the dark, but don't let it eat your light. It's like he was looking right into my soul. It was such a good line, I stole it. Put it in that poem I wrote for Kevin. I still can't believe it. I mean, I do, but I can't. Chris felt thoughtful, a bit conflicted. She'd been in a weird mood all day. And she wondered why Noah was telling her ghost story yet again, but still not talking about what happened to Ethan. He died just a month ago at homecoming. A car accident. But Noah never brought it up. Suddenly, Chris saw something out of the corner of her eye. Froze for a moment, then pointed down the block. Wait. Do you see that? A figure at the far end of the street. A slightly slouched way of walking. Noah strained her eyes. No? What do you see? Christina blinked, and the figure was gone. She tried to shake it off. It must have been nothing. But she felt her stomach drop. Because last night, after Noah had left, after they had laughed off the Ouija board and the doorknob, deciding that Chris's older sister must have been listening in on them, playing a joke, Chris had glanced outside the living room window and seen a figure across the street, standing too still, watching the house. The wind picked up, seemed to howl across the neighborhood, dead leaves flying up where she had seen the figure. Let's go inside. Noah saw the look on Chris's face and her arms prickled. They ran through backyards, through piles of raked leaves, to Christina's house, shaken, and locked the door behind them. It felt good to be inside again, safe and sound. To warm up, they boiled pasta, dumped a jar of ragu over it, and drank Pepsi straight from the can. They curled up on the couch under blankets, watching an animated 1970s Halloween special, Witches' Night Out, and feeling cozy again, the thing Christina saw forgotten. For now. The next afternoon, Christina went to her grandmother, who lived with them. Everyone called her Baba. Baba wore all black, a long black skirt, a black shirt, and head covering. Her husband had died 20 years before, but she was still in mourning. Noah had once told Christina that it seemed unbearably sad to spend the rest of your life grieving for someone. Baba was always kind to Noah, called her a good girl, and approved of her friendship with Christina. Sometimes she would brew Turkish coffee and read their grounds. On this particular day, the kitchen smelled of the strong bite of boiling coffee and hummed with the low bubbling of a mocha pot. Eastern Orthodox icons staring down from the walls. It was comforting, but Christina felt that twinge in her gut, like Baba already knew what was going on. They sat at the long dinner table, a meticulously embroidered table runner from Macedonia, depicting the life of Alexander the Great down its middle. Baba tipped a tiny cup upside down, letting the dark ground slide down its inner walls, creating shapes that she and her ancestors had known how to read. She turned the cup back upright and studied it. Something is wandering. You called it. Christina's stomach dropped. She and Noah hadn't told anyone about trying to contact Jim Morrison, and she no longer thought it was her sister who had rattled the knob. This one is recently dead. In Macedonia, we light a candle for 40 days, so the soul will not be lost in darkness. You must tell his family. Tell them to do this. Recently dead? But Jim Morrison died decades ago. Maybe it's Ethan. Baba looked at Noah carefully and slowly nodded her head. Christina gave Noah a horrified glance. Noah fidgeted, running her fingers along the table runner's lacy edges, head down. Then Christina turned to her grandmother. Baba, we can't go to his parents. They'd never listen to us. They'd think we were crazy. Baba only shook her head. Her voice was soft, but absolute. If no light is given, the soul will wander. Noah was invited to stay for dinner. Later, she sat cross-legged on Christina's bed, working a pattern into the friendship bracelet she'd started. The colors fell into neat chevrons. Christina lay back, watching Noah's fingers tug each knot tight. And she thought, with every loop, every pull, Noah was binding that black thread in again and again with the red, yellow, and white. Death with family, friendship, and life. All knotted into Chris's reality in a way she'd never asked for. So what do? Knock on his parents' door with a candle and say, "Hi, we talked to your dead son through a piece of cardboard." Noah groaned and covered her face with a pillow. "Oh, don't even! Oh, that's so messed up. But if Baba's right, and no one does it, what happens to him?" Christina sat up, hugging her knees. She didn't answer. She didn't know how. Maybe Baba's wrong. Maybe it's just old world superstition. Or maybe it's not. The silence thickened again. Noah's bracelet grew longer, each knot sharp and deliberate, as if she could braid order into the chaos. Christina watched for a while, then turned back to the ceiling, her gut twisting. The aroma of Baba's coffee still clung to her clothes, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the candle was already half lit somewhere, waiting. That night, after Noah left, Christina lay awake in her room. Baba's words still echoed. If no light is given, the soul will wander. Christina didn't know what was worse, the idea of going to Ethan's parents, or doing nothing and leaving him in the dark. The next night, the wind was at the windows again. Creaks and groans on the floorboards. Just the house settling, Christina told herself. But she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Her house, once familiar, felt unsettled. Like something else had moved in, or was trying to. She reached under her bed, took out the Ouija board, and threw it in her closet. Suddenly, the bedroom doorknob shook again, like it had on Sunday. Oh, stop it! Just stop. The rattling ceased, but silence pressed down, heavy. Then the phone rang, startling Christina. She picked it up, hesitantly, not sure who would be on the other end. "Chris, I figured it out. It's been 38 days since Ethan died at homecoming. Baba said 40, right? That means Halloween." Christina gripped the phone tight, her throat dry. "Noah, we can't. We can't just light a candle. It's not our place. It's his family's." "But they won't. You know they won't. And if Baba's right, if no one lights it? Christina's heart pounded. The house shifted around her, shadows restless in the corners. She wanted to hang up, to say Noah was being dramatic, but she couldn't. Baba's words echoed in her mind once again. If no light is given, the soul will wander. I don't know. I don't know if we should. Chris, we have to. Christina said nothing, but in her chest she felt the weight of a choice pressing closer. She told Noah she'd think about it and went to bed, the doorknob still rattling in her dreams. The night before Halloween was always restless. Devil's Night. The wind sharp, the air electric, the neighborhood filled with shouts and the smell of autumn. Christina and Noah sprawled on the bed, trying to keep things light to suppress the rising tension. While Noah continued work on the friendship bracelet, they traded gossip, talked about boys. Noah still pined over Kevin. Christina rolled her eyes playfully. There was a Halloween party Friday night. People from both their schools would be there. Private school and public school kids together. It should be interesting. For a while, things almost felt normal. So, you gonna talk to anyone at the party tomorrow night? I'm gonna stand in the corner and enjoy myself. Let them come to me. That's one way to do it. Me? I'm going to flirt with Kevin until something interesting happens. Maybe at a party he'll finally loosen up. His friend Gabe told me they were going. Oh, hey, you might like Gabe. He's not a history teacher, but he's pretty hot. They laughed. Noah continued chatting in an excited way about what the party might be like. Christina listened, but her mind drifted, unsettled. Finally, she turned on her side, confiding in her best friend. Noah, things have been happening at my house. Noah leaned in, curious. Like what? The doorknob rattled again, on its own. Weird sounds. And earlier this week, there was a shadow outside, across the street, just like watching the house. Noah leaned closer, eyes wide. Is that the same thing you saw at our corner? I don't know, maybe. Well, who is it? Is it Ethan? Christina didn't say anything, and Noah took her meaning. It's Ethan. And what happens if I do light a candle, huh? He just, takes up permanent residence here? I don't want no ghost of a teenage boy watching me undress. Noah almost giggled, but didn't. She shook her head. It might be the only way to undo what we did. But you don't know that. He's trying to reach you, Chris, not me. I can't even see him. You don't understand, Noah. Okay, you can just go home when this is over. Just go back to your normal life and your normal family. But me? All this other side stuff. It's in my house. It's always been here. Only now it's worse. Her voice cracked, half anger, half fear. Baba told me not to mess with this stuff. But I did anyway. I thought it was just a joke. Trying to contact the ghost of Jim Morrison. I was so stupid. You're not the stupid one. This is all my fault. Noah took a deep breath as she continued to loop her threads, nearly completing the friendship bracelet. When we used the Ouija, I tried to keep my mind on Jim Morrison, but I couldn't. I thought about Ethan. Honestly, Chris, I think about him all the time. Christina looked sharply at Noah. Yeah, I just can't believe it. It's so crazy. He's dead. Gone. Well, apparently not. Christina couldn't help it. The stress, the fear, the frustration were all catching up with her. She felt her temper start to rise, unsaid things needing to come to the surface. And I don't know why you're so sad. You only knew him a year. You've known me since 3rd grade, and you didn't seem to miss me when you ditched me for him all freshman year. Noah froze and looked up, eyes wide. Christina continued. You left me. Well, I was still your best friend. It wasn't like that. Christina cut her off, shaking. Yes, it was. You wanted the partying, the older kids, the belonging. You left me alone. And now he's gone, and suddenly you have time for me. But you're dragging him back in. Lightning struck nearby, and all the lights flickered. It wasn't the first time Christina's emotions seemed to change the weather. Noah dropped the clipboard and looked at Chris with something like fear. She grabbed her army jacket and her bag, her face pale, lips pressed tight. I'm sorry. I'll fix this. And then she was gone, leaving the friendship bracelet unfinished, its black threads trailing like shadows toward Christina. As the front door closed, all the lights went out. Christina heard her parents and sister in the hallway scrambling for flashlights. But she sat in the dark, the wind howling through the cracks, the house trembling with every gust. And she thought about what it would be like to be here forever, in the dark, alone, without a candle. They didn't sit together the next day on the ride home. Christina kept her eyes on the window, her anger still sharp. When the bus hissed to a stop, she strode off first. Noah followed, watching her friend's back retreat down the block. Wait! Christina paused. Noah stood at their usual corner, eyes imploring. Reluctantly, Christina came back. I've been thinking. You were right. It's not fair for you to light the candle. I'll do it. Ethan was my friend. I should be the one. Noah, you don't have to. I do. I never told you this, but I missed his memorial. I was at my new school. I'd stopped hanging out with Ethan and Tony and Wendy and Brandy. I didn't even hear the news until it was too late. But Wendy said I should have known. And I can't stop thinking about it. I have to do this. Christina's anger melted. She nodded. We'll do it together. We'll go to Baba. She'll show us how. That evening, they sat in Baba's kitchen. The soft sounds of things boiling on the stove. Icons glimmered on the walls, candlelight reflecting in the glass. Baba poured boiled wheat into a wide wooden bowl. She sweetened it with honey, folded in ground walnuts and raisins. The smell was warm, earthy, almost bread-like. This is koliva. We make it for the soul, a reminder of death and the resurrection. She smoothed the surface with the back of a spoon, traced the sign of the cross in powdered sugar. In the center, she pressed a single candle upright. The flame is light for the soul's journey. Without it, the path is dark. Noah spoke up, hesitant. Baba, I'll be the one to light it. Baba's gaze lingered, solemn but approving. Then you must do it right. A candle must burn before a cross or an icon. Do you have these in your home? No. That's not really our thing. I'm not even Catholic, just at a Catholic school for, other reasons. Baba rose, slow but certain. From a high shelf, she lifted down a heavy brass cross. Its weight gleamed in the low light. Take this. Place the coliva and the candle before it. Say the name of your friend out loud. To Christina, she said, And you? Pray for his soul. Before they left, Baba dipped her fingers in holy water and sprinkled it over them both. So nothing follows you. So only light remains. The water traced cool paths down their cheeks. The candle, unlit, waiting in the center of the coliva. The cross was heavy in Christina's arms, and the night ahead seemed heavier still. Outside, it was Halloween. They had almost forgotten. Jack-o'-lanterns glowed sharp-toothed grins. Little kids ran door to door with plastic pumpkin pails or empty pillowcases, shouting and laughing. They clattered up porch steps in plastic masks and polyester capes. Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, and, of course, the tried and true, witches, vampires, ghosts.
Trick or treat!
Noah thought glumly of her own sexy ghost costume. There would be no party tonight. No Kevin. Some things were just more important. They carried the cross, the coliva, the candle, getting weird glances from the parents, marching to Noah's house solemnly while the rest of the neighborhood spun with sugar and orange light. The house was dark. Noah's parents were gone, taking her younger brother and sister trick-or-treating. They stepped inside. Everything was still, waiting. In the living room, lace curtains hung by the wide front window. Beside them, a Tandy 1000 sat on its desk. It was the pride of the house. Noah's mother played Tetris to ease the stress of a long day. Her dad kept spreadsheets in Lotus SmartSuite, and Noah liked to print out her poems in slow motion on ribbon-edged paper, imagining them published one day. It was the glow of modern America. They unplugged it, slid it aside, and in its place they set Baba's brass cross, the coliva, the waiting candle. Noah's hand shook as she lit the match. Christina's fists clenched, and they waited. Every light extinguished, except the candle. Holy crap. What? What is it? Chris grabbed Noah's arm. Don't you see him? Outside on the lawn, a shadowed figure in a leather jacket, still watching. See who? Chris, there's nothing out there. Oh, crap. He's coming closer. Christina saw him. Tall, eyes gleaming like glass, slouching toward the house. The jacket sagged heavy on his shoulders, as though it carried the weight of the grave. Ethan? Do you see Ethan? Hush! The front doorknob rattled, violent, like it had in Christina's room. Noah cried out, Ethan! Chris screamed, terrified. Noah, don't! But Noah had already run to the front door. Christina's chest burned. She didn't know what to do, so as Noah's hand closed on the knob, Chris simply blurted out in her matter-of-fact way, I pray for Ethan's soul! Noah threw the door wide open, but there was no one there. Nothing but smoke on the wind. Christina collapsed on the living room couch, her body hollow with fear. Noah sank to her knees in the doorway, and for the first time, she wept for Ethan. all the grief that she had been holding at bay for a month came rushing out, filling the night air. After that night, the doorknobs never rattled again. The light had found him, just in time. But it wasn't a perfect ritual. This wasn't Ethan's home, and the Ouija, maybe because of my mom's own unresolved issues, had roused something in his spirit to wander. Not in a sad way, but in an echoing way. He didn't fully leave his haunts, at least not yet. But I suppose he glided through time with grace instead of regret. Christina never forgot the feel of Baba's brass cross in her arms, the cool of holy water down her cheek. And my mom? She never forgot the way her grief finally broke open in the dark. Because she knew it had been him. The thread of smoke left in his wake smelled just like his cigarettes had the first day they met, when he gave his flannel to her and asked her if she liked Pearl Jam. And so she lost him a second time. But it was good to cry for Ethan, to cry for everything that he would never get to experience, and how lucky she was to still be here. He had been a friend to her, a light in the dark when she was lost. She would never forget it. And that light had delivered her back to Christina, where she belonged. But that's a story for another time. Mom and Chris are still friends to this day. Mom finished the friendship bracelet and Christina wore it dutifully, like the good friend she is, for a long time. The bracelet outlasted the rest of high school, college, grad school, marriage and kids. The knots holding together even when the girls themselves could not. A small binding of thread and color. Fragile, but stronger than silence. Chris still has it somewhere, Mom told me, in her old memorabilia, tucked away. Mom ended up becoming an English teacher and a writer. Christina became a therapist. Maybe because she saw, in herself and in Noah, what happens when emotions are suppressed. Uncomfortable feelings like anger or grief, when pushed away, have a way of coming out sideways. Can call forth thunder. Or ghosts. By college, she decided to stop sensing other side stuff, as she put it. And it worked. But my mom says Chris did pass some of those sensitivities on to her daughter, Cassie. I suppose there's no getting away from it completely. So, I guess that's what it was like to grow up then. No smartphones, no internet. You had to find things to do to entertain yourself. And sometimes, those things got you into trouble. And sometimes, I guess most of the time, your friends got you out. Oh, and by the way, Kevin is my dad. Yeah, so that part about my mom crushing on him was super awkward for me. I didn't need to know about my mom's sexy ghost costume either. But she insisted I get all the details right. Typical writer. I don't know if Ethan's spirit is tied to the friendship bracelet my mother wove. If it should be unwoven. If it can be. Or to my mom, who lit the candle. All I know is he helped me, Noah's daughter, when I needed it. So maybe it is. And that concludes my campfire tale of the bracelet. That was The Bracelet, the second of the Spartans anthology, where shadows stretch down suburban streets and the 90s are never quite dead. Written by Nina Alvarez. Performed by Miko Steiner. Produced by Cosmographia Books for WKOZ Camp Cosmographia Radio. Join us next time for The Chords, a story of Thanksgiving 1994. A good Catholic boy with a beastly hunger and a hayride to hell. We'll see you by the fire. The Spartans aren't finished with you yet.